2 o'clock.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How is everyone this week?
Good.
Doing well. Thank you, Mary.
How about you, Mary?
I'm okay. Just, it's been a long week. I'm trying to remember where to go to post this in the community that we're getting.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, Kathy. I haven't talked to you in a while.
I know. Hi.
We have to have another call soon.
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
Perfect.
I
I'll
think
reach out to you.
we need to migrate to CE Beers, Kathy.
What?
Have you been to CE? Did you go to CE Beers last time? My customer education group does this thing once a month where everybody gets together in the late afternoon Pacific, early evening East Coast, and brings their own beverage and chats for a bit.
Okay. Yes, I would like that.
Fine.
Daniel's back. Yay!
Hey, Daniel.
Hello, friends. Nice to be back. Nice to not be traveling.
I wonder if we're going to see lower attendance going into summer. Last week was low, but a lot of people were out last week for Memorial Day.
Making it a really long weekend.
Huh?
Making it a really long weekend rather than just a normal long weekend.
Yes.
Up at the cabin. That's where people go here. Up north.
Okay. Well, we didn't have a ton of topics come up in the community this week, but we did have someone that wanted to talk about G2. I think that's Kara. She's getting on right now. I'll have to ask if she wanted to talk about G2 or GPI. Hey, Kara, I don't know if you can hear me yet, but did you want to talk about G2 or GPI?
More GPI.
Okay. Let me see. Give me just a second. I want to see who brought up G2. Oh, Justine.
Yeah, and I have to drop at 11:15 for another meeting, so I don't know if anyone else has another topic because I cannot stay for the whole hour.
Yeah, no. Oh, there's Justine. Okay. So yes, I should probably leave a few minutes earlier. I have to take my son to the doctor's for, I think, the third or fourth time this week. I've lost count. He's got some stomach issues, so it's nothing like life-threatening, just he can't eat or drink. So
that's kind of life-threatening.
A little bit, but it's also like, well, you can take him to the emergency and they'll pump him full of fluids, which they've done, until we can get into the GI who can give him the medicine he needs. But the emergency room, and so far the doctors that we've been to have not been comfortable prescribing the medicine. So yeah, it's just been a little bit of running around, but we will get there. And you know, I just keep fighting and try to talk to one more doctor.
He's not comfortable. What is it, kryptonite?
What is that?
The medicine. What is it that they're not comfortable?
It's like it's a muscle relaxer, starts with dicyclo something, but basically he had such a bad reaction to a peanut allergy that it's now
Oh.
kind of tricked his body into thinking anything that goes into his intestines and stomach is is
Bad
peanuts.
thing.
So every
Oh,
time he
wow.
goes to eat or drink, he has severe like stomach spasms and muscle spasms in his intestines, and what else? Like gets super jittery and anxious and like shaky and stuff. So
Wow.
but apparently at the same time, something very similar is going around where other people have a virus that is causing this. So some doctors are like, well, he might be okay in a couple of days, and a couple of days will go by and he's still not okay. So it's just not fun, but we're like, we're gonna get there. We'll be able to get there. And yeah, it's just one of those crazy weeks. But now we
Gosh.
can have fun and talk about something normal. Um, Justine had some questions about G2, and Kara had a couple of questions about GPI. So, Justine, if you want to go ahead and just share what your thoughts are on GPI or G2, we can see what we can help you with there.
Yeah, sure. So I think I mentioned last time that we did this G2 review collection at our roadshow and it was really successful. But I also mentioned that it was not cheap. So I'm just wondering, how are you measuring the impact of G2 on your pipeline and like lead generation? And how do you evaluate if it's worth doing? Because yes, it'd be great that if we're like number one, we have got tons of reviews, but we also have like all these other programs to take care of. So I'm wondering how you prioritize and how do you justify like being number one on G2, spending all the resources to get to be number one. I see you're shaking your head, Christine.
We chose not to spend the resources at all.
Okay.
Because it was so time intensive, regardless of which programs, right? There were a couple of programs where if we paid them a little bit more money, they would kind of manage the whole process for us and basically tell me that I didn't have to do anything. And but it would cost more to of course to do that. And so we made a conscious decision not to support any of the reference sites at all.
Interesting.
For this year and see what happens with it. We weren't seeing that much engagement from them anyway, where people were actually saying, I read a review on take your pick, again, whichever one. We didn't see anybody coming back and actually identifying that as a clear point of generation of continued whatevers, right? Whether it was a brand new customer coming in looking for content, or it was an existing customer looking at new functionality. There was no attribution that was going directly to any of those sites, where we could even say, did you look at a review site for this? And most people were saying no, or if somebody did, they didn't tell us, right? So it may have been a team. So we couldn't build any attribution to it at all. And so we just decided that for this year, if we're not in the top upper right corner, I don't care. Or well, we don't care. It wasn't just me, but that the thought is we don't have the resources to spread across managing multiple programs and trying to figure it out. We occasionally will push a link to people so that they can go ahead and certainly go in and do a review on one of the sites, but it's not an active thing that we do. We just decided it wasn't worth the resources, money or people.
And how did you get that feedback? Was it surveys that you sent out to people or just one-on-one conversations?
Initially, we started it with, we tried to do a survey and then we got like almost zero response to the survey. And then we asked it, and then as part of the onboarding process with new customers.
Oh, okay.
So we got the onboarding team to actually, as they were doing their, initial let's meet the team kinds of discussions. It was one of the questions we had them ask during that discussion, because that team was probably still had some decision makers on it, right? People who would have been shortlisting groups and things like that. So
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting approach. Just say, screw it. They,
it made it really easy when everybody
Yeah.
above me said, let's go ahead and do that.
yeah.
I
Okay.
wasn't even the one that suggested it. It came up 2 levels above. So
I think the review sites a lot of times are in people's mindset. And I will tell you, at one company that I was at, it was just like this competitive nature of our CEO to
Mhm.
have high expectations on G2. And then in another company, it was more of the Gartner, because that's associated with so many other things. So that's one of the things with, just don't dedicating people to it, what's going to impact business. I think what Christine did was great, and no one wanted to do surveys. We would just ask anecdotally with the salespeople, and they would say, some would say yes, some would say no. So you couldn't get a good clear answer. But I think it's really what's the business and who thinks it's important. And I would always push for Gartner out of G2. I thought was important. And then we would just ask people to do reviews and just try to keep it going, but not dedicate so much money, because a lot of times they want to donate, dedicate even dollars. You give a G2 review and you have to give them a gift card and so forth. So it was just becoming a lot of financials there that didn't see any value in the end.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I had a very similar, and maybe I'm so cynical about review sites, which I am, but I've seen it be in a lot of cases driven by like executive ego and wanting to be number one and be ahead of whoever. And that was really the driver more than concrete metrics showing that this is really bringing in business.
So yeah, that's what I'm trying to look for. I'm like, what kind of data do you look at? So first you could see a traffic referral. So like how much traffic is coming from G2 sites. But then other than that, what other data points do you guys look at?
One thing of the company I was at, last company, we had G2, Trust Radius, PeerSpot. We were all paying customers for their services. G2 is integrated into Salesforce, and we could tell when a prospect would go to the
intent data.
site
Yeah.
and like who, and then so it's integrated into Salesforce. The sales rep would get an alert, hey, this person from, Coca-Cola is going to our review site and checking us out, and they got an alert. So
Okay.
that's one way.
Mm.
The price for having someone to come, the cost to an event, pretty high. If that's a problem, you could opt for, not paying for them to come, not signing up for the service as a paying customer, and still asking customers to do reviews. I don't think it's as an impactful. You won't get that data if it's not integrated into the CRM. So it could be something. And then the push from an executive at the last company I was at was the reason we were heavy into reviews. One of the reasons was we wanted to create a new market. So it didn't exist in Gartner. We found that we could use the review site as a catalyst to push the analysts to create that market.
Okay. And for the buyer intent data, I think that's like a extra package that I have to purchase at G2. Was it easy to integrate it with your Salesforce data? Like how long did that take? Who was involved? What's the process?
So worked with the Salesforce admins to schedule time to get it integrated. They say the providers, G2, PeerSpot, whoever, say it's easy. I think it is technically. You just need the time from the CRM team to do the integration. Sometimes for me at another company, it was like, hey, you need to schedule it out 3 months in advance to get it done. So maybe 8 hours. I'm not certain. Probably less than that, but it's all about the time and availability of the team that you work with, and could be sales ops, someone else.
I think you kind of touched on it, Chuck. One of the things that I was starting to see at my last company before for the RIF was there was a movement actually away from working directly with Gartner on the analyst side. And I think that was in our case because we felt like there was a disconnect between how we understood the space and how they understood the space. And so it was sort of a losing battle. And I've seen that in a lot of organizations where there's like this, well, you think these people are our competitors, but we don't actually think we belong in that category at all. Like there's a lot of that back and forth. But we were actually starting to focus on driving Gartner reviews, not so much to generate new business, but to try to like back channel influence to the analysts. I don't know if it would have been successful or not, but that was more of a focus than really thinking about like the reviews for the sake of reviews. And we were really, because of that, focused more on Gartner than on G2 or any of the others.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We don't have Gartner or Forrester right now, so G2, Capterra is kind of like our go-to review sites. But yeah, thank you so much for the feedback. So I'll touch base with the team and see if we want to pursue the intent data.
Perfect. Okay. So does that help you answer your question, Justine? Like how people are
Yeah.
measured? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't seem like there's that many options besides, just looking at the traffic and then buying their intent data package. Yeah, so we'll just have to do that.
When I was at Demandbase, we were on several of the different review sites, but I think it was very similar to what Chuck said. We were trying to get into other categories and even maybe define a category. And we were also doing a Forrester like wave thing as well. So we were just trying to get as much activity possible to get those, the badges on our website and those things. So it was just a very big focus for that point in time for the company. I'm not sure what Kara wanted to talk about as far as GPI goes, because I thought she said she had to get off at 11:50, not 11:15. So we can either share some general information about GPI if anybody wants to, or we can talk about that next week and jump into another topic if anyone has something they want to share, have some insights, get some, work on some roadblocks together. Please share.
Hey, sorry, I don't know what GPI stands for.
Gartner Peer Insights.
Gartner Peer Insights. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought I heard somebody say that they changed the name, so it was just Gartner or something else now. I'm not sure which way it goes. And I was just in there for a customer 2 months ago. So that's my memory right there. But yeah, if anybody has anything they want to share on that. Daniel, I'm interested in how you decide which review sites you might or may not use.
Well, that's a good question. We're very much more on the top-down approach in terms of getting feedback from our VP of marketing and our VP of product marketing, who kind of runs our analyst relations. So we're very much on we do GPI because that helps show momentum to the Gartner analysts of what we have. As it turns out, people just have organically been going to G2 and reviewing us without us actually doing anything. I suppose that's the awesome part about being open source, is people just like talking about either how awesome or how terrible you are. Luckily, there's not much how terrible we are. So we've been playing a little bit more in G2, not actually doing the reviews parts, but making sure we're in the right categories. So one of the things we noticed is they had us only in 3 or 4 categories. And so we worked with, we actually contacted one of the sales reps there to try to figure out how to get in different categories. We had to get on a call with one of their decision people for like an hour and walk through. And just because we spent that time, we ended up in the big observability grid that now we're a leader in. And we didn't necessarily do anything more from the review side. We just did more on the back end, trying to get people to think we're in the right category. And that was actually a little bit easier than doing any sort of review program. But for the most part, we're viewing G2 as a momentum thing of, hey, look, we're in a leader thing here. And so we can go to the Gartner folks and look and say, hey, remember when you said you weren't sure where we were? We'll look at this other organic review sites type thing. And that shows us ranking it competitively against our competitors, but ranking in a good spot comparatively.
Yeah, that's helpful too. Thank you.
No problem.
One company I was at, enterprise storage, it was Gartner was the be all end all. And then I went to another company where it was HR software, and that category didn't exist within Gartner, but it did exist in one of the three other providers, peer review sites. So it was, for me, that was a big learning. I thought like Gartner covered everything, but they didn't. So then it was, okay, working with the analyst relations team, they're trying to create the category, took 2 years of massaging the analysts, let's say, to get the category created. So then we came back to Gartner to build more reviews there. But it was just like a stark contrast from the two businesses I was at, enterprise storage, to kind of a niche HR software product, and how that reflected in the review sites that we were to use.
That makes sense. I'll also point out that in general, we don't necessarily take a lot of stock in the review sites or these sort of, or the analyst side. I mean, we do the Gartner thing because that's a thing, but we're looking at the market right now, and there's an sort of overall generational shift of leaders within the IT space that you're seeing many more of them sort of having grown up as users, grown up as hands on keyboards or eyes on dashboards or whatnot you want to say, and they could care less about what a review site says. And the sort of older generation, for lack of a better term, more set in their ways or stodgy, are kind of going by the wayside. So I think over the next, I don't know, 3, maybe even less, 2 to 5 years, you're going to see less and less reliance on, I want a company that is in the, is a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and more about what are my developers telling me that will make their lives easier? What are the things that are going to drive costs down? So we're both from a sort of manpower perspective, because we don't have all of that, and from a just, we don't think it's really moving the needle for our buyers. It sort of helps prioritize us away from spending a lot of time there.
That actually closely relates to my dog's barking. Sorry. Someone else can go. Okay, I think she's done for now. I was going to say that actually relates to something I've been thinking about lately, in that while some people are still using these review sites, I feel like people are also trying to rely more on their own networks, because they don't, it's harder to trust the review sites because you don't know exactly who it is. Like for us, we can go on there and we know like some companies fake it. They, have employees leave reviews. They might pay people. I don't know what it is, but it just feels so much easier if I can reach out to, Jennifer or Christine and say, hey, do you know anyone that uses this tool? Because I trust them and they trust someone else. So I'm interested in seeing how it changes, because I think reviews are still important, but not so much if it's people you don't know, or the review is more important. If it's a 1 or a 2-star review, I want to read that. Like I heard from someone last week, they were talking about how the 1 and 2-star reviews, people look to see if there's anything in there that calls something out that they're particularly worried about. So I'm not going to a 5-star review to see if they call out the one thing that I'm super conscious of and going into this tool or that type of software, as much as looking for those red flags that'll tell me this won't work so well for me. So it's interesting to me because it almost sounds like it might be helpful to have like a LinkedIn for reviews so you can see what the networks say. But on the other hand, you know, marketers, they say ruin everything. And that's what's happening with reviews. So maybe it'll just be more references, more reference calls, something along those lines. I'm not sure. It's always fun to kind of predict the future, but and I just want to say, Daniel, like you talking about the IT and those personas, you know, they usually go in these directions before the rest of us get on board. So if you think they'll be moving that way, even now or in the next couple of years, it makes sense to what I'm seeing as well.
I think
Thoughts?
that's really true. And I think about like Amazon reviews, right? Like 10 years ago, if you were looking at a product on Amazon, you would read the reviews and you would use that in your purchasing decision. And now, I mean, everybody knows they're all crap, right? Like nobody pays any attention to them
I
because
still do the same thing though, right? I still look at the negative ones,
yes,
right? I go down,
right.
right? I go look at the ones and the
Mhm.
twos and I say, okay, what was the problem? And is it consistent, right? Are
Mhm.
there 35 people saying that their return policy is a joke? Or, you know, are there more than two that are saying a particular thing? So I don't know that that part of it will ever really go away, but I think the positive one is the one that we can't trust, right?
Mhm.
For me,
And I
review,
remember
People
being in
tend
the
to write it.
restaurants and getting the
Yeah.
reviews from people and going, oh my God, they didn't like the fact that the coffee was not the brand they like. It's like, oh crap.
for me,
I think
reviews
people
are
tend to
great.
write, oh, sorry.
Direct, their reviews are great directionally. Like I've been on Glassdoor and there's companies with 600 people, employees saying with a 42% approval rating. I'm like, wow. All right, significant with number of reviews, significant low number, and 42% approve of, you know, recommend to a friend. Conversely, like if there's 5 people reviewed on, let's say, Glassdoor and it's a 95%, well, that's not significantly or statistically significant. With peer reviews, I kind of lump it in the same, like directionally. Are people saying it's a 2.2 or are they saying it's a 4.9? Okay. It gives me some benefit, but not all.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when I go to Amazon, first thing I want to look for as far as reviews go is how many stars does it have for a decent number of stars, like of people that have bought compared to the other items. And then I want to look at, so if it's like 4.5 stars, then I want to go and look at those 1s and 2s to see what the issues are. And then I go look at the questions because those will answer the very specific things that I'm thinking about. And for me, software has always been kind of a pain to purchase because you can't ask those specific questions and trust the answers always. You know, a salesperson will kind of be like, yes, we have that feature. It doesn't work the way you want it to, but we do have the feature. And that's where I don't know how we can really help with like questions if we were, you know, the software company itself, but there's room for something else to come into the space, and maybe AI will add to it. That ought to be fun. Okay, who else has a topic they want to talk about this week?
Does anybody want to hear about how the CMA conference went? I went last week.
Yeah, please.
Cool. All right, let me it's dark in my house. Let me see if I can get my camera on. Yeah, so it was in Vegas. So you know, it was pretty fun. So I don't know if you guys know what the Customer Marketing Alliance is. Does everyone here know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they have a whole bunch of conferences going on, like the product marketing, all that. But anyway, so obviously I went to the Customer Marketing Alliance one, and you know, Ari emceed it. He did a really good job. And then there's a lot of speakers that did a great job. I don't think anyone here spoke or attended, but a lot of good takeaways. And then, there's a lot of benefits for just the networking. And then like there was obviously 2 dinners, so that was really fun. And yeah, a lot of good information. I think the main point that stuck out with me is that we're seeing the end of paid influencing in B2B SaaS. And that's why advocate influencing is way more important. So, we wouldn't really trust a celebrity if they said like influitive or, user evidence or whatever is the best, right? We want to know what people in this call think about it. So I was talking to Ari about that, and we kind of realized maybe the next step in the advocacy maturity model is influencer, right? So if you can turn your advocates into influencers, that was kind of my big takeaway. So yeah, a lot of great people, a lot of great fun. So hopefully I may go to the one in San Francisco. I'll be actually at TechCrunch Disrupt. So maybe I'll see you guys there. But yeah, any thoughts?
What were some of your favorite takeaways from the actual sessions?
Kevin Lau started it, so he had a lot of good stuff, kind of on an overview of just advocating for advocacy. And then Dan from Shoutout, he was on a panel. We talked about video storytelling. I'm obviously really big into that. I got a bunch of interviews where I interviewed people on what's hot in customer marketing, and so I might be able to share that. And then the other takeaway was, yeah, a lot of I think PETA had a really good presentation too on kind of the state of things. But yeah, a lot of it was like kind of general information, but it was just good to hear the information again. But I think the biggest takeaway is the end of paid influencing in B2B SaaS, even if it ever was a thing to begin with.
Interesting. Huh.
Was there any conversation about like life cycle versus advocacy? Because I think something I feel like I've seen in my years in this space is a shift much more in favor of advocacy and like less emphasis on life cycle programs, but that could just be my anecdotal experience.
Yeah, when you say life cycle, is that just almost like customer marketing, where it's like the customer, it's like account-based marketing kind of stuff? Because I'm not too familiar with it in this context, but I'm more
like things like onboarding or renewal programs or expansion programs, nurture, right? Any of those types of things, but targeted to the existing customer base.
Yeah, I would say it was more nurture focused. So obviously renewals is a priority in onboarding. There wasn't really much talk about renewals and onboarding. I think obviously we're all trying to improve our onboarding processes for the customer base and also the advocacy programs. But yeah, it was mainly about advocacy. So how to use events to drive more outcomes, right? Or how to get more testimonials, case studies, all that kind of stuff. So if you look at this, it was a very diverse lineup as far as like topics goes. So we talked about almost everything I think in advocacy was talked about. Like 80% of the stuff that I'm familiar with was probably talked about. And
I've seen that, Lauren. I've heard more and more people coming up and being like, I would like to see more customer marketing in customer marketing and advocacy groups because a lot of it is advocacy. And it's something that I've been thinking more about. I think last week in my newsletter, I had included a graphic from LinkedIn that somebody had called it like ABM to CLM, customer lifecycle marketing. So kind of giving it its own space and name. But I think that's interesting because for me, having the background in community, I always felt like it was important to be a part of that life cycle marketing, knowing where I could offer value. But right now in the B2B SaaS space specifically, I think there's a lot more focus on advocacy because it helps with sales and those things. But I'm hoping as we settle down, like as the market settles down and more job openings and things, maybe this year, maybe in 5 years, I don't know, that we'll see more of that life cycle marketing because you know, especially with that ABM to CLM, like ABM getting very account specific, even lead specific, user specific. I think that's just going to keep growing. People want to know that they're not being automated like constantly. And that's going to be harder as we do more and more of this AI. But it'll be easier to generate the message. So there's just going to be a lot of changes. And I'm hoping though that more companies will pick up on the lifecycle marketing. And I'm trying to think about how to incorporate that into the community more. This week, I started a channel for lifecycle marketing. There's only 11 people in there right now. But I'm hoping to like post more content in there as I see it. And I know Erwin Hipsman, Rebecca Grossman, and who else? Alexi Glover. They're all very particularly interested in the life cycle marketing. So I think we have a good group of people that want to talk about that more.
Yeah, I think I come from the community space like you, Mary. So I guess we use different words to describe it, but yeah, I think Shannon says find a way to turn influencers into advocates. That's great, but I think we said the other way around, how to turn advocates into influencers, because you want to kind of like farm them organically in house, right? I mean, obviously you can have like, was it Ryan Reynolds does the Mint Mobile stuff, but like he may be a real advocate, but like I see him as an outsider, you know, more than someone from Mint Mobile, if that makes sense.
It does sound like you've talked to Ari though, because he talks a lot about taking advocates and helping them build their personal brand, which I'm all for that too. I think it's very helpful and effective. But this year I read a PDF from some study or something that was done on influencer marketing, and they were finding that more average employees can become influencers. So like the average employee, the average customer, the average past customer, these people that are leaving companies and they can't be an advocate any longer until they're at a new company. I mean, I can be a company or an advocate for HubSpot for 10 years now. Like, you know, that's how much I've liked their company. So I think we'll see more of that. And with partners, some even past employees and stuff, as we try to earn even more of the trust in the space, because it's going to keep being difficult to do that, especially as we go from content overload today to by the end of this year, there's supposed to be all of these AI tools in place that are going to make a huge difference and impact in, well, from what I heard, the knowledge market or something like that. I went to a marketing AI one-on-one earlier this week, so that's all in my head, with the Marketing AI Institute or Marketing Institute AI, Paul Rotzer. So it was a good call, very interesting. He gets very technical though, so some of it was a little over my head, but it's fun to see all the things that you can do and create right now, but a little overwhelming to think that just 4 or 5 months from now, they're going to have all of these tools in our everyday tools.
Yeah, ChatGPT came up and automation. So I know it's being talked about in this circle. But yeah, I'll see if Ari can share the video I made in the group chat here. And then just real quick, is anyone, I know today's the last day for early bird for CMX. Is anyone going to go to that in San Francisco later this year? CMX Bevy?
Probably not.
I know you're a community
Most
manager,
of us
Mary.
aren't community. I am not much of a conference attendee. I just don't love to travel away from my family. So if I get to Boston this year, which is my goal for Customer X conference, that'll be a big deal for me. I'm not like, one of those people that are always at home or anything like that. I like to have my family with me.
Yeah, that's understandable. I'm a little more free. But yeah, if anyone else has any more questions, feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to, talk about how the event went, or if you want to do a video, I'll try to send you some examples of my videos, because I think where I'm trying to go in my career is more about like the video storytelling part, right? Like how do I turn advocates into influencers? That's kind of like my new tagline. So yeah.
Rob, quick question. I think you used the term turning paid marketers into influencers. Was that the term you used?
Paid influencer marketing. So, I mean, well, yeah, Daniel said Ryan Reynolds owns Mint Mobile. Fair enough. But let's just say like, so my company had a budget for Cameo, and we have people go on like one of those comedians go on Cameo and do a little blurb for us, which is they had the budget, they want to get rid of it, but it's like I think I could do more of that, interviewing our customers and having them be our spokesperson, than getting some celebrity to do a little read for us, right? Yeah, it's kind of funny and it's catchy in the moment, but is it actually going to move the needle for you as far as like buying from us? I don't know, probably not. It just depends.
Totally get that. I've seen a few times where prior companies, we would pay a customer to be able to use their brand. And it was kind of, hidden, cloudy, if you will. It's like, hey, this company is our customer. We're doing all these crazy things with them, like videos, had their own landing page, case studies, reference calls, events like field marketing events. And that was, yes, they were a true customer, but also we were paying them $7 million over 2 years to be able to use their brand and likeness. It comes up every few years. I hear about it, but thanks for clarifying for me.
Yeah, that's a good
Were
point.
you
I haven't really heard
paying
about
them
what you said.
directly? Sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Did you have to say, like, provide a disclaimer that it was sponsored, like a paid advertisement, essentially?
No, there was none of that. It was, and I've been
That's totally like, if you pay someone to advocate for you, you have to like provide a disclaimer that it's a paid advertisement, which is why, right, you want to get people to just organically talk about the work that they're doing.
Or
Yeah.
I've done it before where it's part of their contract, oh, if you let us do this, we're going to give you this great discount, blah, blah, blah. But it's not quite the same level of like, we are paying for your likeness. We're just giving you a really, really great deal that includes the fact that you'll do all these things with us.
Yeah, it's I hear about it every 3 or 4 years. It's quite pervasive. I know one was 7 million, 11 million, 3 million. Big brands we all know that are out there. It's being done quite often, and it's usually like an executive level kind of agreement. And yeah, it's not that common, but it does happen.
So maybe to go back to like my whole comment about influencers, is I'm not thinking celebrities. When I think influencer, I'm almost never thinking of celebrity. I'm thinking of the industry people, right? So like Ari or Mary or Kevin would be like a customer marketing influencer, right? They have sway, they have influence in the industry, people listen to what they have to say. And I think about like connecting with those people. And I know recently in my company, we've had some success with connecting with people like that and partnering with them on content or sharing some of the things we're working on with them, because it's also relevant to their audience. So I've been thinking about that of like, how do we introduce people who already have a following and influence in the industry, introduce them to our brand in a way that helps them grow and then helps like create some exposure for us to our target audience.
I found that doing community events or something along those lines, like when you have a community, it's a great place to bring new influencers. Obviously it'll grow over time. So how many people you can bring in, or what level of person you could bring in. Obviously you'd start smaller, but then move up. At inbound.org, when I started, we had 40,000 members. When we had right around 100,000, we got Seth Godin to come do an AMA on the website, and he's huge. So I got to talk to him a couple of times, but it's a really great place to be like, hey, we would love to host you. At the same time, share whatever we can to help you get sales and whatever, but also, will you share our brand? And that was one way that we did it that was pretty beneficial, and helped our growth a lot. And I know you have some ideas about community, so I thought that might tie in. About community, by the way, I saw that Customer Marketing Alliance has launched a new membership program of $14.99 a year, including all the courses that I saw. Bree has done one, Kevin has done one. I'm not sure who authored the others. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know how well they've done with it or anything else. It probably came up at the summit. I also noticed this week, we hit 400 members officially in our community, and we will beat them in the number of messages we have by the end of the day. So over their year and a half of their Slack company, their Slack being open, they have 23,000 messages, and we will have that a little bit more by the end of today. So I was really excited. Thank you guys for all doing that. Doesn't really mean anything. I had told Ari about it yesterday because we just happened to talk, and he was like, well, what does that mean? And I was like, nothing really, but it just means that our 400 people are super active and talk a lot and engage a lot. And that's a lot of content that I do have backed up. So if you ever have any questions, I can go back and look. Yeah, I just thank you all for helping us get there.
This is the advocacy program for CMA.
Yeah. Anyway, we probably have room for another topic. Does anybody have anything they want to share or get some help with?
I just wanted to say that my webinar this afternoon went pretty well. It ended like 15 minutes ago, and I've been stressing about that for a while, especially this week. And it went pretty well, and I'm happy. So, yay.
Yay!
What was the webinar on, Kyle?
So I work at HackerOne, and we pulled together a few of our customers who manage like the bug bounty programs with HackerOne at their companies, and then a few of the hackers that actually work on their programs. And so the webinar was called Getting Vulnerable: Open and Honest Conversations Between Security Leaders and Hackers. And so the premise was to foster a conversation between these two sides of the important HackerOne community table, and to have them share best practices on how to improve their HackerOne programs from the customer side, and how to improve hacker engagement on the hacker side.
That is, I agree with Justine, a great name and a really cool topic. Like, what a cool combination of people.
I came up with the name. I'm pretty proud of that one too, but
As you should be.
And then in a week and a half from now, I have another webinar with our CEO and then 3 customer CISOs. So I am instantly now stressed about that one now that this one is over.
Now, Kyle, is HackerOne a competitor to Sneak?
No, I don't think so. Our only real competitors are like Bug Crowd and Synac, and there's some other smaller players, but Bug Bounty is such a weird little niche space in security that we have a whole bunch of security companies that are customers. I think Sneak might even be a customer if I'm.
Yeah, I have a very poor understanding of what goes on in the internet security technology space. But 2 weeks ago, I took my weekend and edited through the transcript from Sienna's call from a few months ago, back in March. It was 7,500 words, and it was super good. If you haven't listened to it or read through that, it did take some of the ideas that you're talking about, bringing these people together to have conversations. But it was really good. It might be something helpful for you.
Yeah, that would be excellent. And I'm glad that I don't compete against Sneak, because I would not want to compete against Sienna and her team over there. They are killing it.
When we were on the call back in March, I thought she said she was providing the slides in the transcript. So I put the slides in the blog post, and she did reach out and she was like, hey, I can't have those in there. And I was so glad that she was so nice, because sometimes you can get people that get really upset, and I did not want to upset her. Okay, well, I really need to get off early today because I have to run out. So unless anybody has something else they want to talk about quick, I would love to end this early, 10 minutes early, if that's okay with everyone. And see you all in the community next week. And yeah, have a great weekend.
Mary, are you
Have a
still
good
planning the
weekend.
end conference?
Thank you
Have a good
all.
weekend. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good weekend. Bye, thanks.